Okay, so what I have here is just a review for your Module 3 test for tomorrow on Tuesday. This will be available to you up until 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. At 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, what we're going to do is take this off because it's so much like your test. I don't want you going back and forth and, using that to help you. So this wants you to find the constant of proportionality. And keep in mind that the constant of proportionality, scooch it up out of the way, the constant of proportionality is simply your k value. And to find your k value, you take the y value and divide it by x. So you want to find out the constant of proportionality for this table. And each time that we divide these numbers, we should get the same answer. So let's try the first set. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 30 divided by 10 is 3. Keep in mind that we are taking the y and dividing it by the x. 18 divided by 6 is 3. 27 divided by 9 is 3. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. So I would say my k equals 3. This is very similar to a problem that you're going to have on your test. And I believe that there's going to be a box, and you just put your 3 or whatever the answer is in the box. Okay, the next type of question is going to be a word problem. So here we have Chris is jogging. She jogs 7 miles in 2 hours, 10.5 miles or 10.5 miles in 3 hours, and 14 miles in 4 hours. Find the constant of proportionality and write an equation to describe the situation. Let x equal the number of hours. So unlike the last problem, this one does not give you a table. So what you're going to do is you're going to create your own table. It wants x to be the number of hours. So when I make my table, this is my x and that's my y. And x is the number of hours. So if x is hours, that leaves y as the miles. So taking this information, put it into your table. Put this information into your table. Put this information into your table. So in 2 hours, 7 miles. In 3 hours, 10.5 miles. In 4 hours, 14 miles. So now this looks very similar to the last problem. It wants us, just like in the last problem, to find the constant of proportionality. That would be your k. So 7, whoops, I don't know what that was. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. 10.5 divided by 3 is 3.5. 14 divided by 4 is also 3.5. So my k equals 3.5. This also asks us to write an equation to describe the situation. So our equation will use y, k, and x. As you can see, the x's and the y's change, but the k is constant. So it's constant, it's always 3.5. So what I would do is I would substitute in 3.5, and this would be my equation. So here's my constant that I found, and here's the equation they asked me to write. Next, we're going to find the slope. Now, recall that guy who helped us before. He had a positive eye and a negative eye. He had this crazy eyebrow that went sideways, and his other crazy eyebrow went sideways. He does have a nose and a mouth, but we don't need those lines right now. And what I want to use Mr. Slope Guy for is if I have a line that looks like this, is it the negative eyebrow or the positive eyebrow? This, of course, is the positive eyebrow. This is a positive slope. So my slope will be positive. I also have to recognize that each of these blocks are worth 2. We're counting 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. So every block I move is going to be worth 2. Now to find our slope, we need to use 2 points. And those points can be found by looking at the line where it intersects on these corners. So there are other spots. I could use this spot and this spot, or this spot. But I like the 2 that I chose at the beginning, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to rise up. Now, keeping in mind that when I rise up, although I go 2 blocks, each block is worth 2. So I'm actually going up 2, 4. My rise is 4. And then whenever I run, I'm going to go up just 1 block, and that's 2. Now I can reduce. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Remember, Mr. Slope Guy said that this is a positive slope, so my answer is positive 2. Now again, I'm going to find slope here. And if you recall, Mr. Slope Guy had a positive eye and a negative eye. He had a weird eyebrow and another weird eyebrow. And looking at the line, I'm going to say that this is going to be a negative slope. So I'm going to get a fraction. So that's my fraction line, and that's my negative. I want to make sure that I don't forget that this is going to be a negative slope. Now again, we're going to use our rise and our run. And they have already put 2 points on here for us to use. They have those circles. Here's a third spot we would be able to use, but there's nothing else, just these 3 spots. I like the first 2 that I have, so I'm going to get rid of the other one. I notice I'm counting by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So every block is worth 1. So I'm going to rise up off my butt, and I'm going to run to Grandma's house. So my rise number is going to be 3. So my rise number is going to be 3. And my run number is going to be 4. Now this cannot be reduced any further, so my answer is going to be negative 3/4. So the next type of problem you're going to see is the same type of problem that we had on page 85 in your textbook. In this problem was also something that you had for a homework assignment, and then we went over it the next day. So real quick review here. The equation y equals 375x is going to be plane A, and it represents how fast plane A is going. So you had to tell me in the answer here what the rate for plane A was, and that would simply be 375 miles per hour. This question also asks you for the rate for plane B, and this takes a little bit more work. Plane B is that table. So you want to figure out the difference between 850 and 425. So 850 minus 425. Also, 2 take away 1. So 850 minus 425 is 425, and 2 take away 1 is 1. So that gives me the rate for plane B is 425 miles per hour. And then it asked you to figure out who was faster. Well, since plane A's number is lower than plane B, I would say plane B was faster. And this is the same type of problem that you're going to get tomorrow for your test. You will have a train, though. You'll have train A. And train A will give you that equation. Not that one, but a similar one. Then you're going to have train B. And train B is also going to give you a table. And you have to do some work to figure out what the rate is for train B. And then it'll ask you who's faster. So very, very similar. Okay, last type of question. It's going to be more of, I think, 2 or 3 sentences, but I kind of made it into a question and then a sentence you fill in the blank. But you're going to have to understand how you can tell if a graph of a line is proportional. I have a typo in here. This should be of a line. I'll have to fix that. How can you tell if a graph of a line is proportional? So what you can tell is you look at the line, you look to see where that line intersects the axis. So if it goes right through the origin, you know the line is going to be proportional. How about slope? We've said before, slope is the same thing as unit rate. So you have to know about a line being proportional on a graph goes through the origin. And you have to know that slope and unit rate are exactly the same thing. Again, this will be available until 10 o'clock Tuesday morning. And by midnight Tuesday night, everything for the MyHRW Lesson 3, Module 3 will be due. And then Wednesday we start Module 4. And you can't do any old work. It is gone. You've been told this several times, so it should not be a surprise to you.